It's a very long story how I got started and how I ended up working on To the Moon and Beyond, which was a special film for the New York 1964-65 World's Fair. It was a 70mm film shot in what was called Cinerama 360, projected onto a big planetarium dome. Stanley Kubrick saw that film and hired Graphic Films, where I was working, to work on preliminary conceptual space stuff. So I cold called Stanley Kubrick and I said, "I'm Doug Trumbull, I've been working on your illustrations and I want to work on your movie." I don't know who he vetted this with or whatever, but he called right back and said, "Okay, come on over, I'll send you a plane ticket." I was supposed to be there for 9 months and ended up being on the picture for 2.5 years. 2001 was filled with challenges of trying to make imagery that no one had ever seen before, and certainly not with the kind of quality that Kubrick expected of 65mm Super Panavision. The slit scan animation, as became the Stargate in 2001, really originated with John Whitney, who had worked on To the Moon and Beyond. And John was experimenting, keeping the camera shutter open for a period of seconds or minutes sometimes, while he moved pieces of artwork around on various kinds of XY tables and little motorized gizmos. And Kubrick, who was really a gifted photographer, also knew about these kind of unusual forms of photography. So I said, well, let's put the slit outside the camera. It's going to be a camera turned inside out. And so the slit would be about 4 feet high, big piece of glass, everything in the room completely blacked out. And behind this slit, I'm going to move artwork like I had on the animation stand, and behind that it's going to be bright quartz lights. And the whole camera is going to be able to move back and forth like a horizontal animation stand. So basically you could make an exposure from 15 feet to 1 inch in 1 minute. So the focus is constantly shifting during that entire exposure time. So you have literally an infinity of focal distances during 1 frame of film. So that would create this plane of exposure. And by designing the artwork behind the slit to be various graphical patterns of lines and strange geometric shapes and op art and all kinds of stuff, we pasted up on these huge sheets of plastic with colored gels, you would get these patterns. I was just an illustrator. I didn't know much about film when I started on 2001. So Stanley Kubrick was my mentor, teacher, supporter. And after a while, we both started to realize that my weird concoction of art and mechanical engineering was able to solve a lot of the problems on this movie. Working with Kubrick taught me to think outside the box, look at problems from a different perspective, but it also taught me extreme quality control.